Welcome to The Deep Dive, the place where we take complex, cutting-edge topics and distill them down to the insights you absolutely need to know.
Mhm.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in a really emerging field that promises to reshape not just how we interact with products, but how we feel about them and, how we feel about ourselves. We're diving into a major new work that defines and explores this concept, soft design.
That's right. And our sources today, they really lay out a comprehensive framework for this movement. I think the best way to think about soft design is not as a specific style, but more like a profound operating system update for human experience. It's fundamentally the convergence of highly emotive and sensory aesthetics with both ancient wisdom and, the most advanced new technology available. The goal here is to move beyond mere physical dimensions and create experiences that are truly multidimensional and multisensorial.
Okay, let's unpack that because it sounds huge.
Right.
We're talking about a concept that spans every reality, from the physical objects you touch to hybrid spaces all the way to purely digital realms. What's the fundamental mission that's driving this new design language?
Well, the sources are pretty unequivocal on this. The mission is human flourishing. It's that simple. This integration of tangible and intangible aesthetics, it has to align directly with scientific research. The goal is, it's about a higher advocacy for well-being, for neuro-inclusivity, greater synchrony with the natural world, and a profound alignment with the entire sensorial spectrum of the human experience.
It's almost like an ethical mandate.
It is. It's a move toward a holistic, almost ethical mandate for every single design decision we make.
And this is where that paradigm shift really snaps into focus, isn't it? Because it feels like a complete reversal of the design legacies from, say, the first and second industrial revolutions. We're moving away from that rush for efficiency, for standardization, mass-produced sameness, and all those cold, utilitarian hard angles. One curator we drew from describes this as banishing sharp edges and mass-produced sameness in favor of soft surfaces, digital craft, and universally inclusive solutions.
Precisely. For the last, 150 years, design was defined by function. If it solved a problem efficiently, it was considered good design. Full stop. Now, that pivot is complete. We are designing for feeling. The resulting aesthetics are now directly tied to verifiable improvements in the user's mental and physical well-being. It's multisensory care that's built right into the product or the environment.
And what's so interesting to me is the validation of something that was previously considered secondary or, even irrelevant in the boardroom, intuition. Soft design validates this immersive quest that's rooted in intuition, in those deep, hard-to-define feelings, the senses, and just a human-centered practice.
It really does. It shifts the focus away from the dominance of purely rational, linear thought.
It's about connecting the heart and the mind, the sensual and the actual, in a way that generates real solutions.
And the core premise here is actually quite simple. We are sentient, sensual beings who experience the world first through our senses, and only then do we construct the rational narratives in our minds. So by prioritizing intuitive creativity and then optimizing that through the precision of new technology, we arrive at a softer, more enduring approach to solving really complex, pressing issues, whether that's anxiety or sustainability or even social fragmentation.
So our mission for you, the listener, today is to explore this monumental shift from designing for pure function to designing for feeling. And we'll look at how emerging technology is the absolute key enabler of that shift. We're going to look at material innovations that seem to defy traditional physics, the hidden power of vibrational frequencies,
The deep neuroscience of emotion, and how AI is creating entirely new aesthetics through this comprehensive soft lens. To really grasp the rise of soft aesthetics in design, I think we have to first situate it within the broader philosophical and scientific context. This movement, it isn't a mere trend. It actually mirrors a massive social and cultural shift in our global values.
And you can see this so clearly, maybe most clearly, in the corporate and leadership spheres. The very definition of power seems to be changing.
It is. It's changing from coercive strength to persuasive influence. We're witnessing a transition away from relying purely on cognitive skills, the linear, easily testable and trainable skills, to prioritizing what are known as character-supporting skills.
Okay, the soft skills.
Exactly. These are the softer, yet arguably far more valuable traits that are often really difficult to teach. Things like creativity, compassion, vulnerability, honesty, integrity, discipline.
It's recognizing that the ability to lead a team through a crisis often depends less on maximizing efficiency and more on maintaining trust and psychological safety. Listing these soft skills as professional experience is now highly valued when you're building dynamic, high-performing teams.
Right, because they predict how a person will endure and react in difficult, ambiguous situations. They provide organizational resilience. And this represents the validation of vulnerability and openness, allowing for learning through iteration and trial and error, where the process itself, not just the optimized outcome, becomes a valid metric of success.
And we have some really powerful political examples of this global shift toward soft power leadership.
We do. Our sources highlight influential former female country leaders like Jacinda Ardern, the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, and Sanna Marin, the former Prime Minister of Finland, who fundamentally redefined leadership norms.
Right. Ardern famously emphasized empathy and kindness during major national crises.
Yes, and she proved that those values can coexist with and actually amplify effective decision-making and strength.
She advocated for trusting your instincts, not by blindly ignoring research, but by knowing when to synthesize information and when to just act, rather than succumbing to that information overload that just induces paralysis.
And that is the essence of soft power persuading and inspiring in a non-coercive way. And this soft power is being leveraged to change global narratives. We see this in the Africa Soft Power Initiative, or ASP, which was founded in 2020. They are intentionally aiming to build bridges and change the global perception of the continent by leveraging the soft power of their creative and cultural industries. So music, film, design, fashion presenting new narratives created by their own voices.
And it demands more participation, collective wellness, and a focus that goes beyond the traditional human-centered approach to prioritizing vulnerable planetary resources. Now, turning our attention to the brain, we encounter a huge cognitive shift in how designers approach their craft. Traditionally, the design loop was driven by rational thought. Identify a functional problem, solve it. But the new loop places emotional intuition right at the very center of the creative process. It prioritizes well-being and allows feeling, rather than just thinking, to prevail at the ideation stage.
And this brings us squarely into the realm of neuroaesthetics and how we actually perceive and process the world. We were all famously taught about the five senses, but neuroscience has vastly expanded that map.
Right. Some fields identify upwards of 53 senses. That's incredible. Things related to radiation, motion sensitivity, wind pressure.
The key insight is just that our perception of the environment is so much richer than that traditional five-sense model allows. We are incredibly complex sensing machines.
And central to this idea of soft design is the proprioceptive sense,
Right.
which is, it's essential and often pretty poorly understood.
It is. This is your body awareness sense. It regulates where your body is in relation to space and to itself. It's what allows you to use calibrated force.
Okay, so give us an example. That's like knowing how hard to grip your phone so you don't crush it.
Exactly. Or what allows a professional dancer to know where their limb is without having to look at it. It's force regulation and coordination. When this sense is underdeveloped or overwhelmed, people can struggle with motor control and often experience chronic anxiety because they feel, untethered in space.
So when this sense requires some therapeutic input, what do professionals do?
They use sensory integration therapies that leverage weight, movement, and pressure for calming effects. And this leads us directly to the therapeutic power of touch.
Touch is so foundational for emotional processing and social bonding. Our sources detail specific research on what's called affective touch.
Right, that's a slow, gentle, deliberate touch that bypasses certain sensory nerves and activates these seed tactile fibers. This specific type of touch produces a measurable skin conductance response, which leads to calming effects, enhanced social bonding, and fascinatingly, pain attenuation.
So that's why a hand on the shoulder during a moment of distress is so universally effective.
Yes, and this research directly informed the rise of things like weighted blankets, which are rooted in deep pressure stimulation therapy. The theory was pioneered by Temple Grandin and her invention of the squeeze machine, or the calming hug box, which was originally designed for autistic individuals seeking to self-regulate.
The underlying principle is that deep pressure stimulation helps the body release natural calming chemicals like oxytocin, which regulates stress and manages anxiety.
And we are seeing these principles move from these very specialized clinical settings into the mainstream consumer market.
And this is where the design challenge emerges, which soft design directly addresses. Many of these effective self-regulation aids, weighted blankets, noise-canceling headphones, tactile surfaces, they were created under the heavy, sometimes stigmatizing label of a disability aid.
But as the sources note, it's completely normal for all people to be highly sensitive to certain sensations or to experience stress. The insight is that these encompassing sensorial benefits are crucial self-regulation tools for everyone.
A related and hugely influential sensory phenomenon is ASMR, autonomous sensory meridian response.
The internet certainly popularized it through ASMR artists creating triggers like whispering, tapping, and crumbling paper, but it is far from just a fad.
No, the empirical evidence is now rock solid that ASMR is a legitimate physiological experience. Studies show that for those who experience the sensation, that tingling feeling on the scalp, it significantly reduces the heart rate by an average of 3.41 beats per minute.
Wow, that's a significant result. It's comparable to outcomes seen from practicing mindfulness or listening to healing music, which demonstrates that the experience is physiologically restorative.
And crucially, ASMR is distinct from aesthetic chills because it induces calm and relaxation rather than excitement and alertness.
That's a perfect example of restorative soft input.
That is an excellent segue. If feeling is paramount, as soft design dictates, how do we get past our own conscious reporting and actually map and measure these deep, often subconscious emotional states?
That takes us into the realm of advanced biomeasurement. And we have to start with the very core of our being, the heart. We must develop sophisticated ways to map and measure these intangible human responses, moving beyond surveys and questionnaires. The HeartMath Institute has over 25 years of research proving how the heart profoundly influences our overall health, our emotions, our perception.
Right, and they've developed tools for measuring this phenomenon, which is known as heart coherence.
And the insight here is that the rhythm of your heart's beat is not regular like a metronome, it's highly variable. This heart rate variability, or HRV, changes based on your emotional state.
So low erratic HRV means you're stressed and disconnected.
Exactly. And high, smooth HRV indicates a coherent, calm, parasympathetic state. Their technology, like the Inner Balance Trainer, uses sensors that connect to your ear or finger to read that HRV signal. The user is then trained in real time to shift into a calm emotional state by synchronizing their breathing pattern with an oscillating dot on the screen. It's a biofeedback loop.
So it's teaching you, in a measurable way, how to synchronize your heart, mind, and body into coherence.
And they've even scaled this up with their Global Coherence app, where users can measure their personal coherence points and see their contribution to a collective global heart frequency.
Which signals a shift toward looking inwards and mastering our own electromagnetic frequencies to positively influence the collective, all supported by measurable visualization technologies.
This connects directly to the work of Canadian scientist Dr. Joe Dispenza, who explores how we can lead ourselves with emotion rather than relying solely on reactive rational thought. His research into epigenetics suggests that 95% of disease is created by our lifestyle and our environment, meaning we have significant agency over our own gene expression.
Okay, so if emotions are typically the end product of an experience, you feel joy because something good happened. He's proposing that we can signal our genes ahead of the experience.
That's it. By intentionally creating elevated emotions. He calls this process metacognition, which means choosing a feeling, like gratitude or joy, and focusing on it until the body begins to believe that the future event has already occurred.
And his work suggests the pineal gland contains microcrystals that produce an electromagnetic signal, acting as a transducer that connects with higher frequencies.
It's a method that gives individuals measurable physiological power to control and project their own health outcomes proactively, shifting the body's chemistry simply through intention and elevated feeling.
Now, moving to the commercial research side, we have affective computing, or emotion AI.
Right. Traditional technology processes visual and verbal cues to recognize emotions, but there are some significant challenges around accuracy and bias.
For instance, research shows that current emotion AI can have profound bias, especially against underrepresented groups, like people on the autistic spectrum.
Their emotional expressions might not align with the traditionally defined universal facial expressions that were used to train the algorithms, leading to misclassification and misunderstanding.
So to combat this, new tools are emerging that bypass conscious, flawed reporting altogether. For instance, Experience Lab uses wireless medical-grade sensors.
EEG for brainwaves, ECG for heart activity, and galvanic skin response, or GSR.
To detect emotional responses in real time.
And what's fascinating here is the insight they've gained. They can detect emotional responses before people are even consciously aware of them.
Which could potentially eliminate the traditional focus group model, where people report what they think they feel, or maybe what they feel they should report.
Exactly. Instead, it gives designers direct, documented emotional metrics, leading to a much more accurate map of raw, unfiltered human truth. This is prioritizing documented feeling over consciously reported opinion, and it fundamentally challenges traditional research.
Okay, so let's move from those intangible measurements of feeling to the physical world, how this soft philosophy is manifesting in objects, materials, and wearable systems. The core aesthetic shift here is a direct reflection of the philosophy, moving from hard, rigid materials like plate glass and extruded metal to pliable, flexible forms.
Often utilizing softer, curved geometries that mirror the human body and eliminate those sharp angles.
And this new aesthetic expression is largely enabled by additive manufacturing, or 3D printing, which has just radically transformed traditional material limitations and processes.
It allows for what's called digital craftsmanship, which blends computer-aided design with the high skill and nuance that was historically associated with traditional techniques.
IOUS Studio is a great case study here. They're taking an ancient, traditionally rigid material clay and 3D printing it into these fluid, bioreceptive forms for domestic use.
The parametric design tools they use actually mimic natural growth patterns, allowing the studio to create ripples, gradients in height, and concavity that are physically impossible with traditional ceramics, all while minimizing waste.
And this digital craft allows a single material to achieve vastly different levels of rigidity and function within the same object.
Right, look at the application of lattice structures, specifically in high-performance gear. Carbon's digital light synthesis technology created the specialized bicycle saddle. Because the elastomeric material density in lattices could be adjusted infinitely at millions of data points, it created a customized suspension built specifically for the rider's unique anatomy.
So it's providing a level of pressure relief that traditional foam construction simply couldn't match.
Not even close. And the same core technology was used for the Adidas 40FWD midsole, generating 5 million lattice variations to optimize performance and multi-directional movement.
This ability to integrate multiple functions, cushioning, stability, rigidity into a single material structure is making the traditional process of post-assembly, where components are glued and stitched, pretty much obsolete.
And that leads to truly sustainable innovation. Take the Pangaea Absolute sneaker.
It's a 3D printed single-piece shoe made entirely from one mono-material 100% recyclable thermoplastic polyurethane, or TPU.
Because there is no stitching, no gluing, and no waste in the production line, it can be completely recycled back into a new shoe at the end of its life.
The insight here is that digital manufacturing can eliminate complexity and promote radical circularity.
Now, moving beyond just fabricated materials, soft design looks to the ultimate source of optimization: nature itself.
Exactly. We see the rise of biodesign and synthetic biology, using nature as a guideline for efficiency, self-assembly, and self-repairability.
Biodesign learns from living systems, aiming for optimized, intelligent use of nature, leading to regenerative ecosystems rather than those open-ended loops of waste.
And synthetic biology takes this a step further, treating life itself as programmable. It seeks to modify or design novel biological entities, often intersecting with AI and machine learning, to create materials that are literally alive, or, well, alive-like.
Consider the incredible work of Dumalab, exploring cell-free, biologically active structures. Their architectural goal is to create humidity-free, responsive structures.
So what does that mean? How do they do that?
They extract the RNA and DNA machinery of life, the literal instructions for cellular function, and embed it into structures like cellulose and fibrin.
That is mind-boggling. So you have these materials that are, in a sense, dormant. What happens when they wake up?
Well, this machinery acts like a sponge that wakes up when it's wetted and then performs a pre-programmed task. For example, it could sense high humidity and initiate a process that reacts to that environmental inducer, leading to living-like materials that create healthier, self-regulating homes without any mechanical intervention.
This is designed at a molecular scale.
It is. And then there's the incredible power of AI to accelerate this entire field. DeepMind's AlphaFold, which is a deep learning program, can solve protein structure predictions, or protein folding.
You give it the genetic string, and it yields the complex functional 3D structure almost instantly.
This capability is a genuine revolution. Solving protein folding enables material visualization and prediction before you even fabricate anything. Its applications range from improving treatments for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, where understanding protein plaques is crucial, to developing enzymes that can naturally break down plastic waste or efficiently convert carbon dioxide into fuel.
So AI combined with natural optimization can predict the optimal, softest, most efficient 3D shapes before a single physical object is ever made.
Now, since textiles sit in continuous proximity to our skin, they are ideal carriers for soft systems and wearable well-being technology.
And this has driven the evolution from simply attaching rigid electronics to clothing to creating e-textiles with fully integrated functionality.
Textiles are naturally pliable and flexible, making them a seamless partner for soft systems. We now have conductive threads woven with materials like silver and copper or screen-printed electronics using flexible inks containing graphene.
The rigidity of traditional hardware is gone, and the system moves with you, unnoticed.
A prime example is the Lumia electronic layer, or LEL. This is a woven, malleable layer that uses a combination of metals to completely eliminate bulky, inflexible wires. It provides heating, lighting, and sensing functionalities, but here's the soft design twist. It's designed to be visible and fully integrated into the aesthetic, not hidden away like traditional wiring. The technology is part of the expression.
We've also moved far beyond simple step tracking. Take the Reflector.
Unlike hard surface biofeedback devices, it has a soft foam exterior covered by fabric. It collects ECG and EDA stress signals from the user's fingers to provide real-time feedback.
The softness of the interface supports the goal. It's training users to control their mind-body neural circuits in a comforting, soothing experience.
Another breakthrough is the Apollo Neuro wristband. This is fascinating because it doesn't require conscious user interaction.
Developed based on neurotechnology, it delivers low-frequency sound waves through silent, soothing vibrations directly to the body via the skin.
The insight is that these gentle vibrations passively restore balance to the nervous system, essentially delivering a dose of tactile calm without demanding any cognitive effort from you.
And this is proven to improve heart rate variability, lower blood pressure, and enhance sleep quality through touch therapy delivered via the skin.
You don't have to think your way into calm. The technology helps gently guide your nervous system there.
We also see targeted solutions for the highly subjective experience of thermal comfort. Temperature perception is so individual.
It really is. Devices like the Wave wristband intervene locally to change the entire body's thermal perception. By applying precise warming or cooling cycles to the highly nerve-sensitive wrist, it stimulates the nerves responsible for sensing temperature.
And that induces allisthesia, which is a physiological sensation of overall pleasantness that radiates through the entire body.
Right. This allows the user to adjust their entire body's perceived temperature and cycles without having to crank up the thermostat for a whole building, making the system personalized and incredibly energy efficient.
The principles of soft design are also radically transforming architecture.
Yes. Moving from responsive structures concerned mainly with energy efficiency to genuinely neuroscience-informed design that focuses on how spaces directly affect our cognitive and emotional well-being.
A key case study here is A Space for Being, a collaboration between Ready-Made, Google, and Muto Design. They created 3 interactive rooms, essential, vital, and transformative, informed by neuroaesthetics research. Users wore biometric wristbands that measure their moment-to-moment physiological responses.
Things like heart rate and skin conductance to see how different aesthetic environments made them feel.
So the essential room, for instance, featured natural materials, neutral tones, soft curved lines, and light scent, aiming for warmth and stability.
Well, the vital room was designed to stimulate, with bright colors and percussive rhythms. The transformative room was restrained with black, white, and highly tactile finishes.
And the data collected created a personalized report card, literally showing the physiological influence of spatial design on the user's nervous system. The data literally validated the design choice.
And this research validates the urgent need for neuro-inclusive spaces. In the modern workplace, proposals for neuroatypical individuals include private areas with acoustic and visual separation, adjustable mood lighting, and comfort aids like weighted and ball-filled blankets.
And this raises the central question of soft design, doesn't it? Why shouldn't these restorative, high-comfort benefits be available for everyone?
Exactly. Quiet, contemplative settings and biophilic design, which incorporates nature, are crucial tools for counteracting allostatic overload.
Which is the chronic stress caused when environmental challenges exceed a person's ability to cope, a near-universal problem today.
To truly understand the impact of sensory pollution, you need a visceral contrast. Our sources compare the highly sensory polluted LAX International Airport.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's a cacophony of loud music, shouting, banging metal belts, harsh fluorescent static lights. It creates such an anxiety-generating experience.
Right. And they compare that to the Helsinki-Vantaa airport in
And
Finland.
the contrast is truly shocking.
It is. In Helsinki, passengers are met with intentional silence. No shouting, no background music, just calming amber-illuminated corridors of warm wood, biophilic sound design featuring quiet, subtle, chirping birds, and accessible quiet rooms with low lighting and soft furnishings.
Finland has been named the happiest country in the world multiple times. This pervasive attention to quiet, safe, and soothing design is clearly part of a broader cultural value that prioritizes collective calm.
And this soft approach even extends to critical public services. Project Beloved, for example, is working with law enforcement agencies across the U.S. to create soft interview rooms for victims of trauma.
So they replace the cold, stark, sterile environments, the harsh fluorescent lights, the hard, angular surfaces, with warm colors, swivel chairs, standing lamps, plants, and weighted blankets.
And the goal isn't just decoration. It's about promoting psychological and physical safety. By removing environmental stressors that can trigger fight or flight responses, they are creating an environment where a traumatized individual can feel grounded enough to recount difficult experiences.
So design is directly enabling healing and justice.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move into the hybrid realm. This is where the physical and digital dissolve into these seamless aesthetic experiences, driven largely by the invisible forces of vibration, sound, and light.
Right, and let's start with sound. In an age where engineered soundscapes are growing in importance, we are simultaneously facing an extinction path for natural silence. What we consider normal ambient sound traffic, distant sirens, humming machinery is actually a constant source of stress.
Which is leading to this movement focused on preserving natural quiet.
Acoustic ecologist Gordon Hempton, the sound tracker, is central to this. He founded Quiet Parks International after realizing that silence is not merely the absence of sound, but rather presence, the sound of natural systems working in harmony.
And he notes that constant noise pollution is a major stressor, causing hearing loss, high anxiety, sleep disturbances.
Leading to his profound conclusion: you are what you hear.
Hempton's efforts highlight the intrinsic human need for quiet, which he believes is our birthright. His efforts to protect the Hoh rainforest led him to establish Quiet Parks International to save quiet for the benefit of all life.
And he recognized that preserving a space that requires listening rather than passive hearing is a crucial environmental and psychological act.
The opposite of preserving natural quiet, then, is the intentional creation of artificial silence.
Right. Orfield Laboratories, Inc. in Minneapolis holds 3 Guinness records for its quiet chamber, an anechoic space lined with thick, sound-absorbing wedges that reach negative decibels.
That sounds intense.
Yeah.
What does it actually feel like to be in a negative decibel space?
It's a sensory deprivation experience that forces a profound internal awareness. People report that after about 15 or 20 minutes, they can hear their own heartbeat, the blood circulating in their ears, and sometimes their joints grinding.
So it's disorienting.
Extremely. So disorienting that few people can stay in for more than an hour.
And yet, it has therapeutic uses. People with autism or PTSD have reported feeling remarkably peaceful after spending controlled time in the chamber.
It's like a sensory reset. It forces the brain to fill the perceptual void, which sometimes leads to hallucinations or highly lucid states.
Another key figure in the world of intentional sound is composer Pauline Oliveros, who championed the practice of deep listening.
Her practice explores the symbiotic relationship between hearing, which is the physical perception, and listening, the subjective, active process involving memory and experience. She worked in these unique acoustic spaces, like the Dan Harpole Cistern.
Which has an incredible 45-second reverberation decay cycle.
Exactly, teaching people to perceive sound not just as noise, but as a spatial, temporal event.
If sound is vibration, then visualization becomes possible through cymatics, the study of wave phenomena.
Cymatics, a term coined by Hans Jenny, is the visual art and science of how sound waves can create these mesmerizing geometrical patterns on mediums like liquid or fine powder. As the frequency changes, the patterns shift.
And some of the resulting designs are remarkably intricate. They're akin to Indian mandalas and sacred geometry, suggesting an inherent order in vibrational energy.
And here's where it gets really interesting. One cymatics image of water vibrating at the Schumann resonance, the Earth's fundamental electromagnetic frequency of 7.83 cycles per second, is said to resemble the Aztec calendar.
Wow. That suggests a deep inherent connection between our vibrational balance, the Earth's natural frequency, and these ancient design principles focused on harmony.
This science is moving rapidly into medical applications. Cardiologist Sean Wu and bioengineer Utkan Demirci are using acoustics, specifically Faraday waves, to pack and organize delicate heart cells into controlled, intricate patterns.
So this is being explored for potential medical applications, like creating sound-generated heart patches for patients recovering from heart damage. The precision of sound is literally being used to sculpt biology.
And what about the memory held within the medium of water itself? This moves us into highly resonant, if, slightly controversial territory.
Right. We have to discuss Dr. Masaru Emoto's work on how human consciousness, words, intentions, thoughts, can affect the molecular structure of water, influencing the shape of ice crystals.
Building on this, Dr. Zach Bush proposes a deep connection. Our emotional memories are not stored just in the brain, but in the water held in our muscles, our fascia, and our peripheral tissues.
So this is why sometimes trauma is physically released during deep tissue massage or somatic therapy, because the memory is physiologically stored outside of the brain.
He suggests that drinking structured or hexagonal water H3O2 can improve cell communication and electrical functions because it's a resonant material that can be imprinted with new, positive memory. It's a complete reframing of how our physical matter conducts energy and memory.
This connection between form, energy, and life force is the basis of biogeometry, founded by Dr. Ibrahim Karim.
His work focuses on the physics of quality, using geometric principles to bring natural balance into living systems. After 40 years of research, he identified a unique energy effect existing at the center of all living systems, the BG3 energy quality.
That sounds incredible, but the concept of geometric shapes amplifying a BG3 life force that runs counter to modern reductionist physics. How do the sources address the necessary skepticism or the challenge of making this measurable to a scientific community?
Well, Karim acknowledges that his work falls outside the traditional scientific purview because it deals with the vital, emotional, and spiritual levels of nature, which modern science excludes due to subjectivity. However, he argues that the effect is measurable not by conventional means, but by dowsing and subtle energy sensing, which detects the presence of the BG3 quality.
And the practical application is design. He designs proprietary shapes that amplify the presence of this BG3 quality. This is a profound challenge to traditional architecture.
Which often uses square or circular units that, according to his research, put stress on the brain by keeping energy stable inside, which is unnatural for a living system.
Instead, resonant shapes, like those that create a toroidal field or a vortex, are required to bring the life force back into our designs. Design must target not just form and aesthetics, but also these vital energy variables.
To bring this abstract vibrational concept into the realm of applied aesthetics, we can turn to the work of artist Lachlan Turtson, who uses water, light, and sound as his primary medium. His work is like a kinetic demonstration of cymatics.
So your work makes the invisible forces we've been discussing visible. You view water as a way to sculpt light, controlled by sound transducers. How does that technical science interface with your intuitive artistic process?
Turtson. I discovered early on that to work with light directly, you have to work with physics. Water felt like the most immediate way to sculpt light. And sound was the best tool to move water because of the nuanced control you get. The key elements are the transducers, the electromagnets from inside a speaker that vibrate the diaphragm at really low constant rates, causing the water to create these intricate moving geometries.
And you mentioned that a major part of your process is finding the resonant frequency. For our listeners, can you quickly define that and explain how you find it in your work?
Turtson. A resonant frequency is the frequency at which a material will naturally vibrate and respond really well to a specific tone, like when an opera singer breaks a wine glass. We are constantly searching for that specific frequency because it tells us the lowest amount of energy we need to make the water vibrate. It conserves energy by using the material's inherent latent properties. I've learned to find it intuitively. I do it by feel, by sight, and by sound, not just by calculation.
That embodiment of trained intuition leading the creative process is the perfect definition of soft design. Given the conversations around healing frequencies like 528 Hz, do you attribute specific emotional or healing meaning to the tones you use?
Turtson. People ask me about that often, but I'm skeptical about attributing specific abilities or emotions to a single tone. That often feels too simplistic. I intentionally prefer not to impart any kind of fixed emotional read on the patterns. If I play one tone one day, it creates one pattern, but the next day it might be slightly different due to air pressure or water temperature. I let the viewer project their own experience.
That's a powerful statement.
Turtson. It is. When the war in Ukraine started, people viewed my work and spontaneously saw the visual patterns as helicopter blades. In peacetime, those same people saw the same patterns as a flower or a ripple. The collective human experience imprints on the water, not just my intention. The function of this work is to pose alternatives to the hard-to-find, computational-looking mode of being. I'm just taking light, sound, and vibration, those three basic elements, and representing them in a novel format to spark curiosity.
That prioritization of the viewer's subjective experience, the qualia, over the artist's specific intention, is essential to soft aesthetics.
And this exploration of subjective experience is leading directly into technologies designed for full sensory immersion, which often induce liminal states.
Places of transition, featuring soft, dissolving boundaries and surreal, unnatural aesthetics.
These customized intentional experiences are happening in purpose-built vessels and pods, like the harmonic egg. It's a 360-degree dodecagon that uses sacred geometry, platonic solids, the golden ratio, and custom music that works with the specific geometry of the chamber to support resonance healing.
Aiming for a deep state of physiological relaxation.
And then there's the Reality Center in Santa Monica, a wellness center that provides treatments customized via initial analysis of the individual's voice frequencies, followed by pulsing, vibrations, and light. Tarun Raj, the center's president, explains their method of hyper-personalization.
Raj. We use the voice because it holds so much information, capturing cues from the brain, the heart, and the vagus nerve. By mapping the subtle vibrational patterns of language, we can determine where a person's energy is focused, find their harmonic frequencies, and see what they are unconsciously expressing. This provides a sort of prescription for their sensory experience.
So you are measuring the inherent musicality and the colors correlated to a person's energy signature. How does that information translate into the actual light, sound, and vibration treatment inside the pod?
Raj. We use those specific unique frequencies to create personalized binaural beats. This is where one frequency goes in one ear and a slightly different one goes in the other, and the brain reconciles the difference, causing brainwave entrainment. If we want you to focus, we use an alpha wave frequency. If we want deep meditative healing, we use a slower theta wave frequency.
And you combine this with light and vibration to achieve what you call sensory resonance.
Raj. Yes, sensory resonance is the state achieved when all the senses are engaged and in harmony. This puts you in a liminal state where your body relaxes, surrenders control, but your consciousness expands and stays focused. This detachment is where deep healing happens. Crucially, the user is a co-creator of the experience.
We hear that when a user closes their eyes in the vessel, they often report seeing vivid colors and geometric patterns like rhomboids and stars that the user's mind actually creates. This is known as the Ganzfeld effect.
Raj. Precisely. We are inducing a deep meditative state, the theta dream state, but keeping the body relaxed and the mind expanded. This is highly therapeutic for trauma. If a traumatic memory comes up, the body feels good and relaxed, allowing the mind to detach the trauma from the physiological triggers hardwired in the limbic system. We are helping people accelerate change by amplifying their future, higher-frequency self.
So the soft aesthetic experience is now fully integrated into the digital realm, largely propelled by the exponential development of artificial intelligence, deep learning, and machine learning.
AI is not just a tool anymore, is it?
No, it's a core technology of the fourth industrial revolution, enabling entirely new modes of aesthetic creation.
And the speed of development is just astounding thanks to faster processors and cloud technologies. But in the design world, the big debate is whether AI design aesthetics can become more accurate, more feeling than human-created ones.
And whether purely digital creations can inspire new functional forms in the physical world.
The most profound and positive application is for sustainability. Generative AI allows for incredibly complex system thinking and visualization before physical prototyping even begins.
A company like Orbital Materials is training its model on physics and material science data to generate matter solutions even at the molecular level based on highly specific instructions.
Like, create a new material that has a good absorption capacity for carbon dioxide, or that requires zero water input.
And this moves material behavior from passive and static to dynamic entities that move, change, and perform on cue. Digital materiality is using AI algorithms to generate hyperrealistic patterns, color, and textures without physical constraints.
Which is crucial for immersive environments like the metaverse, where texture needs emotional impact without physical weight.
This means materials don't require the same functional rigidity as physical matter. J. LaRoche's digitally created material swatches like digital moss or knitted graphite with infused ash showcase aesthetics designed purely for visual and emotional storytelling.
They are optimized digitally for maximum evocative power before any resources are spent fabricating them.
But the output of AI is only as good as the input. The importance of semantics and accurate verbal language in training these generative models is paramount.
Right. If the language used to define beauty is narrow, the AI's output will also be narrow. Meta, for instance, created the ImageBind project, which combines 6 different sensory data points, audio, text, visuals, temperature, movement, and depth, to train its AI systems to better understand the holistic, multisensorial world.
And the creative community is embracing this new medium. We're seeing the rise of algorithmic art or procedural art, where artists or algorithms use code like GLSL or JavaScript as their material.
They use pre-programmed behavioral datasets, often giving partial creative agency to the machine itself, leading to these unpredictable yet structurally contained art pieces.
And we have a new term for this output, synthography. That's synthetic photography images created through generative adversarial networks or text-to-image models.
Digital artist Mario Carrillo, for instance, creates stunning animations using code, focusing on continuous, fluid motion and complex geometry.
Carrillo finds that he can tightly control parameters like frequency, speed, and scale, and often uses foundational mathematical principles like cosine, sine, and the golden ratio.
But he, too, knows that he is most excited when the computer surprises him with an unexpected outcome. His work has been displayed on massive screens, like the 877 square meter screen in Chongqing, China, proving that digital soft aesthetics can command attention at a monumental scale.
The rise of digital art is also fundamentally linked to digital provenance. Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, provide authenticity and provenance for unique digital assets, art, virtual apparel, gaming products, which live only on the blockchain.
And this creates digital scarcity and feeds the collectible nature of the art, ensuring that a digital piece, which is infinitely reproducible, can still be owned as a unique asset.
It's rapidly expanding the conversation about who an artist is, providing a decentralized global creative economy where digital soft goods have real monetary and aesthetic value.
Crucially, technology is giving us the tools to see what was previously unseen. We can now visualize previously abstract concepts. The Artech House exhibition Life of a Neuron allowed visitors to experience a neuron's life cycle from pre-birth to death at a macro, immersive scale, turning pure scientific data into profound emotional art.
And going back to the subjective experience, the Dream Machine Project conducted the massive perception census, surveying over 33,000 people from 133 countries. The primary goal is to investigate perceptual diversity, how each person experiences the world differently, whether they see images behind their eyes when they think or how they process music.
And what's the long-term impact of gathering all that data?
By correlating this unique individual perception with markers for neurodivergence and other internal experiences, they are building new platforms for empathy and nonverbal communication.
So if we can map how you genuinely perceive the world, we can design spaces and interactions that cater to your unique reality, moving away from generalized assumptions about the average user. So, we have journeyed from the philosophical concept of soft power all the way to the molecular manipulation of matter via AI and sound. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into soft design?
Well, first, soft design is more than just an aesthetic. It's a profound philosophy of vulnerability, of inclusivity, and collaboration. It demands a participatory and iterative approach to work and life.
It moves us from cold, functional hardware to warm, responsive, feeling-centered interfaces.
Second, its aesthetic core centers on dynamic vibrational frequencies, sound, light, color, and motion. And because it learns from sensory differences and is fully customizable, it is inherently neuro-inclusive.
Catering to a broad spectrum of human needs, using personalized data like HRV and voice frequency analysis.
And third, it demands multidisciplinary collaboration, dissolving the traditional boundaries between science, art, and engineering. The resulting products are comfortable, approachable, and integrate technology so seamlessly, whether it's through e-textiles or self-regulating architecture, that the experience feels effortless and intuitive.
Ultimately, soft is not intimidating. It is multisensorial, and it targets the metaphysical, the magical, and the sublime, aiming for instant, intuitive experiences of awe and wonder.
It is reversing the idea that aesthetics are only superfluous, instead placing them at the very center of innovation, well-being, and measurable human health.
This new framework fundamentally alters our relationship with matter and energy. It enables us to transmute vibrational inputs into diverse sensorial outputs, allowing us to see what was previously unseen.
Whether that's the BG3 energy quality, the molecular structure of water affected by consciousness, or the inner life of a neuron.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to consider. If technology can now augment and translate vibrational inputs, frequency, sound, light into entirely new visual and tactile outputs, we are gaining the power to map, measure, and crucially, design entirely new emotional experiences. What new nonverbal emotions might we be able to create, map, or experience when technology gives us the power to augment our entire sensorial spectrum, not just our sight or hearing? We invite you to explore the softness in your own world.
Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.